Okay, so the homework is to do the front and the back of this worksheet. I know that for each class we were able to get several of these done, but I'm going to go through each problem on both sides. Okay, so number one, first of all, the direction says identify the x and y intercepts of each line. Write them as ordered pairs. If the line does not have an intercept, write none. Okay, so x-intercept, well, that's the point where the line crosses the x-axis, which is right here. So the line crosses the x-axis right here. Where is that coordinate? It's at 5, comma 0. Okay, whereas the y-intercept of the same line, it crosses the y-axis right here, and that's at 0, comma 4. And that's it. Number two, well, we see if we have a horizontal line and it only crosses the y-axis, so it doesn't have an x-intercept. But it does cross the y-axis at 0, comma 2, so that's the y-intercept. I would suggest that you try to do as many on your own on this page as possible, and then come back and check your answers. Okay, now this line is slanted or has a lean to it, so it does have a y and an x-intercept. The x-intercept is the point where the line crosses the x-axis. Again, you can pause the video at any point to do it on your own and then check your answer. So the x-intercept of this line, it crosses at 1, so it's at 1, comma 0. Remember, the x goes with the x. And then the y-intercept is right here. That's where the line crosses the y-axis, and that point is at 0, comma 2. Okay, number 4. We do have another tilted or a slanted line. So the x-intercept is where the line crosses the point where the line crosses the x-axis, which is here. That's at negative 2, comma 0. And the line, the point where the line crosses the y-axis is at 0, comma negative 4, 0, comma negative 4. And we're done with that. Number 5, oh, we got a vertical line, which means vertical lines only cross the x-axis. They don't ever cross the y. They're horizontal. You might be like, well, what if you put it on the y-axis? Then it's not crossing it. It is just the y-axis, okay? So we need it where it just crosses at one point. So this line crosses the x-axis. Oh, look at me. I'm glad this is the y-axis and this is the x. I need to always make sure I look at that because this is where my origin is. So this is my y-axis. So let's go over here. We've got a vertical line crossing the x-axis at negative 1. So it has an x-intercept at x negative 1, 0. And then it has no y-intercept because it doesn't cross the y-axis. It's actually parallel to the y-axis. The x-intercept here, this line crosses the x-intercept at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0. And the y-intercept is at 0, comma 3 because that's where the line crosses the y-axis. Okay, number 7, the x-intercept is at 4, so it's at 4, comma 0. And then the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and it's at 0, comma negative 4. All the signs matter. Number 8, the x-intercept is right here, and that's at negative 2, comma 0, and the y-intercept is at 0, comma 4. And for number 9, this is a vertical line, and it only crosses the x-axis, so it doesn't have a y-intercept, and the x-intercept is at 3, comma 0. Going to the back, I'm going to start with drawing all the horizontal and vertical lines. So like this is y equals mx plus b. Okay, this is y equals mx plus b. And this is also y equals mx plus b, but because the x is not there, it's actually 0x. Okay, and then minus 3. So let me look at all the ones that have a y equals negative 3. That means the slope was 0, okay, because when you take the 0 times x, that wipes it out, and all you have is the y-intercept. This is still your b, but it scoots over, and it just takes the place of the 0x. It doesn't change the value. The slope of the line is still 0. It's just that in order to make it an equation we can write, we scooted it over. So the slope is 0, which remember a slope of 0 is horizontal. Think of slope dude. He would be on a 0, he would be saying 0 fun. So that's down here, y equals, and it's crossing the y-axis, okay, at negative 3. So there is your horizontal line. Is there another line like this? Let's see. That doesn't start with y. Here's another one where you don't have the x. That means the slope of this was 0, okay? If you wrote it, it would be y equals 0x plus 7. So this is another horizontal line. The question is, where is it? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Where is that horizontal line? Okay, so it is at y equals 7. So where is y? Here's your y. And where is 7? Here. So how do I draw it? You draw it horizontally. Okay. All right, is there another line like that? Oh, here. Okay, so you don't see the x, which means the slope was 0. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line where y equals negative 2.5. Now that's interesting. You got to go down on the y-axis to negative 2.5, so that's halfway in between. But you don't just stop it there, you actually draw the line, because this is representing a line. So this is a point. A point and a line are not the same thing. Thankfully, this lets us know it's a horizontal line, not a vertical line. So right here, just do the best way you can. Just go right there, halfway between the 2 and 3, and that's where my horizontal line is. Do I see any other horizontal lines? No and no. So let's work with the vertical lines. Vertical lines always start with x. So let's see. Here we go. X equals 3. Now that, because there's no y here at all, that is going to be a vertical line. So slope of undefined. So where is x equals 3? Well, let's go to x. This is your x-axis. Where is x equal to positive 3? There. And then you draw your vertical line. Okay, and then you're done. Do we have any others like that? Here, number 17. So if you start with x and there's no y in here, that means it has a slope of undefined. Slope of undefined looks vertical, okay, not horizontal, it looks vertical. So the question is, where do I put that vertical line? Well, we put it at x equals negative 2. Where's x equals negative 2? Well, x equals negative 2 is right here. X equals negative 2. So you draw your vertical line through there. Okay, so now what's the rest of the lines going to look like? They're going to be tilted. So let's go to number 10. Now here, if you refer back to your interactive notebook, okay, I'm going to pull out one of the classes, and let's say, for example, everyone should have the same pages. So page 92. Okay, that's page 92. If you look, it says, all right, step 1, rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form. So what does that mean to rewrite? Well, sometimes they'll not be in slope-intercept form. So we got to rewrite until we have it in slope-intercept form. So this one is actually already in slope-intercept form, so I can go ahead and skip step 1. Step 2 says identify the slope and y-intercept based on this equation. So here's my slope, which is 5, and my y-intercept is at 0, negative 4. Now, then step 3 says, so I've done step 2 now. I identified the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, so now what? Plot the y-intercept. Okay, so let's plot that. 0, negative 4. Let's see, 0, negative 4 is down here. Plot it. All right, so step 3 is done. Now step 4 says to use the slope to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. So we're going to go back to the slope. We need a change in y over change in x. So we're going to write it like this. So change in y and change in x. Remember, y goes up and down. So this is positive 5, so you're going to go up 5. And the bottom number, the denominator, is your change in x, so it's going to go left or right. In this case, it's positive, so you're going to go right. So I'm going to put my pencil. It says starting from the y-intercept. So my pencil starts at the y-intercept. There it is. And then I go up 5 and right 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then right 1. Let me make sure I just did that right. Pencil back on the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1 to the right. I'm going to try one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then right 1. Okay, so if you don't have a straight edge, do the best that you can, or take a piece of paper, kind of lightly, place your pencil against it, and then draw your arrowheads to indicate it goes on forever, and that is what y equals 5x minus 4 looks like. Let's look at number 11. Okay, maybe you should try this on your own. You can pause the video anytime. So it's already in slope-intercept form. There's your M, and there's your B. So Let's try finding m. So y equals the slope here, okay, this is already in slope-intercept form. Let's identify the slope and the y-intercept. The slope here is -3, and the y-intercept is 0, 2. All right, step 3, plot the y-intercept. All right, where do we start? 0, 2 is right here, plotted. That's all I had to do for step 3. Step 4, use the slope to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. So I need the slope. Well, I always want a change in y over change in x. And right now I only see the change in y, so you can always put that over +1, and that doesn't change the value of anything. Now you can write that, or you can switch it to +3 over -1. Both of these are acceptable. Okay? So let's say we go with this one. So this -3 is a change in y, so that means you're going to have to go down because y can only go up or down. Because it's negative, we're going down. And the change in x is left and right. Since it's positive, we're going to go right one. So I'm going to put my pencil on the y-intercept because it says starting from the y-intercept. And then I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, into the right one. Down 3 and right 1. Okay? So I usually draw 3 points because the second one could be wrong, and it's just nice when I put my ruler that I have 3 points to kind of guide it. So there we go. All right, we'll come back to number 15. Okay, 15 is more like this. We have to actually do step 1. We've been skipping the step 1, but 15 requires us to do step 1. We'll come back to that. We'll do another one, number 18. So that one, again, we get to skip step 1 here because it's already written in slope-intercept form. But I'm going to write it so that we see it like this. So negative 2/3 x, vertically versus horizontally, plus 4. They all mean the same thing. But put the negative, okay, so this is in y equals mx plus b form, and so was this. They were both already in that form. So now step 1 is already taken care of. We didn't have to do any work. But now step 2 says identify the slope and y-intercept. So I'll write that down here. So the slope is right here, and the y-intercept is right here. So let's write the slope, -2/3, and the slope is 0, 4. Okay, so step 3 says to plot your y-intercept, which is 0, 4. So let's plot it. Where is 0, 4? Right there. Okay, and then step 4 says use the slope to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. So we need to use a slope. Now, I'm drawing 2 arrows because that negative needs to go somewhere, okay? So you could either put it to the top or to the bottom, but do not write it to both because that'll change it to a positive. We need it to be a nice negative. So you have options. If you do this one, we'll go down 2 and right 3, down 2 and right 3, down 2 and right 3. So from here, starting from the y-intercept, you go down 2 and right 1, 2, 3. Down 2 and then 1, 2, 3. Now, let's say you decided to go this way. Then you go up 2, left 3, up 2, left 3. So if I go up 2 and then left 1, 2, 3, it continues the line anyway. I have enough points. I'm going to go ahead and connect, and that's what that graph looks like. Okay, and number 15. Number 15. Now, 15 is one where we do have to do step 1. So let's look at what happened with step 1. Here is an equation that's not in the y equals mx plus b form. So we had to change it so that it is. So we subtract x from both sides in this particular one. We rewrote the 2y, brought down the -1x first plus the 4. We divided through by 2. And for this part, we just left it a fraction. So this became -1/2 x, and then this one divided to be 2. Now it's in y equals mx plus b form. So we're going to do that with number 15. Okay. Now please don't freak out. Okay, those of you that are listening, we will definitely do more problems like these. Okay, when I see you next in class. So, but let's do number 15 down here where there's some space. So x minus 3y equals 9 is definitely not in slope-intercept form. I want it to look like this. Okay, that's the end goal, but it doesn't look like that. For example, the y should be the only thing on the left side of the equation, but I've got an x, and I got a -3. I got to somehow move that over to the other side. So we're going to get rid of this x first. How? Well, it's positive, so inverse operation is to subtract it. Now this is where you be careful. Don't forget about the negative and the 3 and the y. Bring that all down. Nothing else happened to those. And these are unlike terms. Imagine circling that and boxing that. You can't put them together. So we're going to put them side by side. Since I want it to look like this, I'm going to put the x first and then the 9. So negative x, and then this is positive, so put plus 9. It's starting to look like this. The only thing is that the number here should be a 1, and right now it's a negative 3. So I'm going to divide by negative 3 to get rid of it, but how do I divide it on this side too? You divide and you divide. Because when you're dividing things, you have to divide everything equally. So negative divided by negative positive, that's what we wanted, and you get your y, and there's invisibly a 1 here, a positive 1, because a negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1. Now here, I'm going to leave this a fraction so that I could see the change in y over change in x. So that's going to be a positive, the double negative becomes positive. I'm going to leave the 1, which was invisibly there, and then leave the 3 as a fraction, write the x on the side. Now, positive 9 divided by negative 3 is a negative 3. Now, that's in slope-intercept form. So, we finally did one where we had to do step 1. We had to rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form, and that's what we did. Now we're ready for step 2. Now, if you do this part wrong, then your step 2 is going to be all off. Everything will be off from here because your answers depend on what your slope and your y-intercept comes out to be. So, this is your m, this is your b. So, m is 1/3. And then your b is 0, negative 3. So we've done step 2, identified the slope and identified the y-intercept. Step 3 is to plot the y-intercept. I think I said this. Did I call this step 3? I meant step 2. This is step 3, plot the y-intercept. Okay, so let's go over here, plot the y-intercept, which is at 0, negative 3. So I go down to 0, negative 3 and plot it. Then it says use the slope m to plot additional points starting from the y-intercept. Okay, so from here I'm going to go up. This number here means to go up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3, because this is positive and it's the change in y, and change in y can only go up or down. Change in x can only go left or right, so 1/3, 1/3. So go up 1, right 3, up 1, right 3. Okay? If you want to go down 1, left 3, it'll continue the line. So this is what that line looks like. And we are done graphing.